Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Maciek, and on this channel I look at design practice issues. I'm a product designer and I will try to show them to you as best as possible. I'm discussing methodological, technological, psychological and other more or less logical issues. Although a lot is said about design, few people know how complex the process is. I would like to dedicate it to the people who are not directly involved in the designing but have an impact on its course of action. I believe that by breaking stereotypes I will contribute to the promotion of knowledge about the true face of design. Let's meet the designing matters together. An introduction to trend forecasting concept. For most people, trend forecasting and trend spotting is an activity as valuable as spirit seances, fortune telling and tarot reading. This is mainly because it generally seems that this type of occupation has no more logical explanation other than that someone is having some feeling about something. It is a common belief among so-called rational people that trendsetters are trying to trick others into their way of thinking or that someone pays them to promote a certain way of behavior. This is due to the fact that the vast majority of us think of ourselves as a typical representative of mankind with so-called normal approach to the world. With this bias, it is extremely difficult for us to accept the fact that there is no such thing as norm, and that many of us think and behave more differently than we think, just with keeping the appearances of being typical. The truth is that our psychophysical and analytical abilities are very different. Some of the people have different abilities than the rest of us, analyzing their surroundings on the basis of emotional and visual experiences. Such data is easier for them to remember and process even on the subconscious level. Other people analyze their surroundings on the basis of intellectual experiences, conscious memory, or nearly mathematical abilities. Something that is difficult for us to comprehend we consider as unreal or imaginary. Many people who deal with trends have difficulty in logically explaining why they believe that something will be or is a trend in a different way than their own gut feeling, because this sphere of mental activity escapes our conscious control. As intuition is problematic and perceived as not reliable, a number of methods have been developed to bring us closer to understanding and, as such, controlling the analysis of phenomena that we call trends. It seems truism that it takes time for a tendency to become a trend, but it is also true that not all phenomena lasting long enough will become a trend. It seems, however, an indisputable fact that the development of tendencies is deeply related to human behavior, and that by analyzing them, we can discover the mechanism behind the formation of trends. In short, we can say that trend forecasting is a constant documenting and arranging perceptions and impressions of phenomena and trends occurring in our reality. All this to analyze them later and illustrate them in a graphic or verbal form. Thanks to this, the designer would be able to present the gray area of our intuition and observations in an organized, logical, consistent, and therefore reliable form to people who can base the decision-making process on their basis. One of the most popular ways of assisting with predicting trends for design purposes is mapping the key trends both in the past and the present and using a form of brainstorming, sometimes called scenario planning, showing how they may develop in the future. The effect of these investigations is the so-called Trend Atlas, a living document showing how in our reality social tendencies behave, helping us to see in which direction they are heading and what is the intensity of each of them. Since trends arise from repetitive human behavior, people are the key factor that can help us a lot while we follow their ways. When we begin our research, we need to know a thing or two about how trends are formed. The basic question is in which group of people new trends are born. Most influencing group of people we call trendsetters. Among them, there are also trend creators. The basic difference between them is that trend creators create a trend through their work, and trendsetters promote it with their purchasing choices, supporting creators, and driving publicity in various ways. The common feature of both these groups is a similar sensitivity to stimuli we can call a similar taste. Trendsetters most often come from creative environments such as artists and designers, and other sensitive groups such as celebrities, bloggers, gay people, people with high financial status, and more sensitive young people. It is estimated that the average consumer population comprises of 3 to 7% of trendsetters. The rest of the customers are also divided due to their behavior into other groups participating in spreading trends. Followers of trends, most sensitive to new trends called trend followers, spreading the already visible trends called early mainstreamers, the most visible group that implements trends in life called mainstreamers, successors, followers of the previous group called the late mainstreamers, group resistant to novelties called conservatives. Those industries and companies that are focused on taking advantage of new trends and products are forced to constantly develop them. Trendsetters will no longer be much interested in the brand staying behind. By observing large groups of trendsetters, a company can more consciously judge what will spread as a new trend in its product category. However, observing trends in a wider range of areas can also contribute to what the company will need to determine its own response to emerging trends. Media, such as the internet and entertainment industry, also guide the company into emerging trends. This has to do with the fact that the more noticeable, replicable, and easily digestible something is, the more likely it is to spread as a trend. With many trendsetters among customers, it is more likely that a given product will become trendy. This is associated with responsibility for the product, its constant development and improvement of the offer from season to season. Losing this group of customers also means losing other customers following their choices. The most common litmus test that people refer to when it comes to following trends is the fashion industry. It has a direct impact on other industries such as garment fabrics, carpets, curtains, wallpaper, wall coverings, upholstery fabrics, and so on. These are directly influenced, but also indirectly it touches on interior design, furniture, and other products, both luxurious and those more accessible. To follow trends seriously, some kind of immersion in the trend-setting environment is necessary. Being at trade fairs, design days showing usually inaccessible studios, art exhibitions, and those events where the concentration of new idea is greater than elsewhere. Delving into the broadly understood world of culture, science, and art, and other places where human entrepreneurship and creativity are manifested more clearly. Such places are large city streets, places that are more open to young people and students, newly emerging or revitalized districts which serve as a breeding ground for all ventures to which areas that already are a bit fossilized are not so open. It is not without significance that representative office or showrooms of companies that want to be seen on the market are located in large cities. Such metropolises have a larger capabilities of trend spreading than other cities and a concentration of trendsetters in many of their categories in one place. Trend-setting clusters in specific districts of these cities are characterized by the fact that they are open to those diverse, previously mentioned social and cultural groups that influence the emergence and spread of trends more globally. London, Paris, Milan, New York, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Tokyo have been among the metropolises that have had the most visible influence on the rest of the world trends. Some of them have a greater impact on the specific industry than others, such as Paris for fashion and Tokyo for electronics. These companies that create the fastest passing trends have a hardest time as they are forced to create new trends quickly to maintain interest in their brand. Here, there is the greatest field for emergence of junk trends and temporary fads. The innovation market is full of hints as to what may turn out to be the new trend. However, not everything that is innovative and is emerging in the world has the potential to become a new trend. Cultural and civilization differences in the world mean that some will be delighted, others will be indignant and disgusted with a newly emerged tendency, and it will not always become a market hit and something that people will want to follow. It is worth emphasizing that the mere presence in the public visual space may be insufficient to promote a product if it's not placed in the context of other products perceived as fashionable or trendy, giving it a higher rank. Here, having someone with a good knowledge of trends is also important if you give this person some influence on the content of, for example, advertising. This person can be a designer or artist friend of the company because of their obviously higher level of immersion in the trend-setting environment. By doing this, the company can determine what our choices, methods of conduct, and our environment will look like in the near future, both material and ideological. This way, from our imaginary forecaster of a divine revelation, we come down to the picture of a countless data flow of everyday inspirations and minds scrupulously analyzing it. The more we are submerged in those data, the more intense and, after conscious arrangement, more practical and useful for a serious business.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening. I tried to raise the subject and make you aware. I'm happy to contact with those of you experienced in the topic and perhaps continue it in another podcast. Do not hesitate to leave a feedback on this episode. Leave me a thumb up if you find this channel valuable. Please share it through the network and hit subscribe button to not to miss the next episode. Until next time.